throughout history, humanity has had its fair share of ups and downs. I think we all can agree. And this journey throughout time is what we refer to when we talk about history. It's all the people that have come before us, all the mistakes, the achievements, the failures, everything like that. That's what we think of when we talk about history. But what's the significance of history? And I think that's something I started thinking about just in really acute detail in the past year. So why is history important? Why should we think about history? Or I would encourage or posit that we should think more about our history on many levels. So history is significant because it shows us who we are. Personally, who we are as a city, who we are as a country, and who we are as the world. For instance, you're born today. You want to know what is your purpose in life, or what is the purpose of humanity. If you can try and figure it out. But if you go and read a book, go and watch a movie, go and talk to somebody, go and have a meaningful conversation outside of maybe the realms of our conventional media that we like to get information from, you'll find something probably greater than what you can think up on yourself, which is our opinion of our world around us. But there's a few things I think that need to be defined when we think about history. So there's a lot of influences on history, and we're going to talk about those. So one big influence throughout history is morality. When we talk about morality, we're talking about laws, right and wrong, doctrines, those types of things. These entities in humanity are a standard. They help us not fall into situations like we see in the Dark Ages, or helps us to have a kind of standard, a base that says this is against the law. Don't kill everybody, because then you'll be really lonely. Or, you'll have a much better life if you can stick to a standard. Communication, relationships, all these things have to have standards. But these standards are there as a status quo, or a baseline, or whatever you want to call it. These don't necessarily progress humanity, but they keep humanity to a standard, right? So if we are constantly challenging the standard to go below it, it's very hard to go above it, or to innovate, or to progress as a culture, progress as a country, progress as me, myself. So that's a perspective. There's another perspective. It's really a concept, newness, or you can say innovation. You can say life. Like I talked with Nate about. I really like gardening because I see a kind of innate quality to life from the perspective of just like growing vegetables. Anybody ever grow anything in here? Anybody ever grow anything from a seed in here? Yeah. You see these little things happening, and it's so normal. Like, I mean, you go to the grocery store any day, grab some vegetables, grab some fruits, but when you see something come from nothing, like a dead seed, it's just stagnant, and you cultivate it to something you can enjoy, something you can eat, something you can take in, and you can benefit from it. That's pretty awesome. And as a side note, if you've never done that, you should. Go buy some seeds on Amazon. They'll be at your house in 2 days. It'll be great. So newness versus morality. These are not contradictory, but they are on two kind of different planes. One isn't there without the other, but this one, newness, or you can say like innovation, doesn't necessarily care about morality. And I'm going to give examples of that later on. So there's a gray area here. We have, like the law, morality, then we have like this life, right, over here. So Opinions. So who's ever been on the internet? Who's ever been on Facebook? These are platforms where opinions reign supreme. And something that I'm going to talk about a little bit later called reality is kind of subjective and kind of a gradient of understanding. So this says, for those of you that can't see, it says, the internet where opinions go to become facts. Isn't that the truth? Facebook wars, I mean, before that, forums, all these different platforms. I mean, as humans, we love to tell you what we think. Or, I mean, especially American culture. Like, we're the land of the free, right? We're free to say whatever we want, whether it makes sense or not, right? And I will be the first to tell you I've said many things that may make absolutely no sense. But later on, luckily I have some people in my life that say, hey, Jordan, you're kind of stupid sometimes. And then I'm like, wow, you're right. I better change. So this is the problem with opinions. Sometimes they can be blown up, and we believe them as reality, or we believe them as fact. And that may not necessarily be helpful. So there's a few types of opinions. Qualified opinions. This is like your CPA or your doctor or a trusted advisor. So a qualified opinion or an expert in advice that you trust. So these are something good in your life, right? Then there's an adverse opinion or discrepancy. This is like when you come home and the dog, like you find like a poop on the floor, and the dog's like, I didn't do it. I didn't do it, man. But you know, like there's no one else there. You trust a dog, but then somebody had to have pooped. Either somebody broke into your house and did something very, very strange, so there's a discrepancy there, right? There's a discrepancy, and it has to be resolved. So either the reality is something, either this just materialized out of nothingness, or the dog, it needs to go outside. So the other type of opinion is a disclaimer opinion. This is something that is questionable, like look both ways before you cross the street. Why? Because you might die. Well, you can disagree with that opinion and just go without looking, and you will probably be okay, because as a driver, I don't want to hit you. But this disclaimer says, hey, it's best for you to observe this. So then there's our favorite, which is the unqualified opinion, the idiot, the not woke, or the immature, or what I like to talk about is mansers. Who's ever heard of a manser? It's like, oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Oh, it's supposed to be that way. But it's on fire though. Oh, it's okay. It'll cool off, right? So there's all kinds of mansers we like to talk about, and those are just kind of ways of sidestepping facts. Sometimes we don't like to deal with reality, or we don't like to deal with the facts, because the facts are kind of like those laws. They're very concrete. You can't, either you deal with them or you ignore them, but it doesn't change them. So that brings me to my next point, that opinions are not always facts, but opinions can lead to facts, which can lead to reality. I'm confused, and I wrote that, okay? That might be a little that needs to be teased out a bit. So opinions are not always facts. So before we talked about those different types of opinions, and we realized that sometimes an opinion is subjective. It means it only makes sense to me, or it only matters to me. But opinions can lead to facts, meaning like, I think that my dog pooped on the carpet, so I'm going to go, does this look like dog poop? Or does this look like giraffe poop? If this is giraffe poop, I have a bigger problem. So this can lead you to something else. Or, for instance, in the realm of engineering. So I worked in a data center for like 6 years. So I was constantly faced with IT problems. But a lot of times IT problems aren't IT problems. There's something wrong with the computer. There's something wrong with the person. And if you're on the phone, that's a big layer to get through. So who's ever tried to solve a computer problem? Had to call tech support? Yeah, it's tough. Sometimes the guy on the other end doesn't want to help you. And then from the IT person's perspective, sometimes the person on the other hand doesn't want to be helped. They just want you to fix it, but you can't because you have to go through the conduit of the person, right? You can't. Especially because I was working with people that had dial-up, so it was like, you couldn't like take over their computer because it was too slow. Remember dial-up? Any dial-up fans here? All right, good deal. So maybe my opinion of my computer is, it's broken, you broke my computer. No, maybe it just has too much dust, or maybe you just need to turn it on, because that's happened to me before. So all these things can lead to reality. So reality is kind of beyond, many times beyond our opinion, and it's something that is living and active. It's always, we're always reaching for it. It's growing. Like the reality of today is right here. This is a reality. We get everything from cell phones. Everything you can do is from a cell phone. Like I can talk to anybody around the world. I can get any information in the history of recorded history right here, just through a Google search. That's something. So what is reality? Gosh, that sounds so weird, right? Who even asked that question? Well, what is reality? So I think we have to ask that question. Because if we never ask that question, we're really prone to creating our own little silo. If I never ask, like, what does my life have to do with this guy's life in the front row? What does my life have to do with my neighbor? What does my life have to do, what does Toledo have to do with Bowling Green? Or what does my life have to do with the university? If we ask those questions, we'll really start to see something bigger about our life. And I think that's very important if we want to see humanity progress, or if we want to see something change, like for the better, right? I think recently in the news, there's been a lot of bad news. I think we can all agree, if you've been watching the news, there's a lot of bad news. So I think we have room to grow. So what is reality? So reality is discovered through the desires of humanity. Right? So basically that just means, what do you want? What do we want? I mean, I think a big thing is, you always hear someone saying, well, I want to be happy. Everybody wants to be happy, right? I don't think there's anybody that has a desire to be miserable. I don't have a desire, probably the majority of people in here want to be happy, right? So, but the majority of people, well, I don't know the majority, but it's got to be somewhere around 50-50 or less. Or we struggle with happiness. We struggle with, man, you know what? I'm happy sometimes, but sometimes I'm just not happy at all. Sometimes depressed. Sometimes I think I should be happy, but everything around me sucks. So what I've been thinking about or considering over the few years is discovering the desires for Toledo, for our city, right? So you can think about the world, but as one person, it's pretty much impossible to make an impact on the whole world. But if you bring it a little closer, there's a reality to our city. We have a history. This used to be a swamp. But do you see a swamp today? No, because there were some people that had a reality that was, I'm going to make this a city. That's crazy. I would never do that. I'd move somewhere else. Probably. But we have some people that are investing in a reality that they've seen before it's materialized. And we see it materializing today. I think downtown is so much different than the downtown I knew 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Who's grew up in Toledo here? Cool. Who's coming to Toledo in the past 5 years? Past 2 years? All right, cool. Lots of different types of people here. So, but You can't impact a city at that type of scale without first considering you. So I have to consider me, it's like that Michael Jackson song, right? I'm looking at the man in the mirror. I can't sing, I'm sorry, because I'm nervous. Anyways, but like I'm looking at the man in the mirror, right? I'm asking him to change his ways. I really like Michael Jackson. I'm sorry if you don't, but he's amazing to me. So that's my opinion. So we're friends. Okay. So we need to look at, like I said, ourselves. What is my relationship with the city? That, if you ask that question, that will lead you down a road that will allow you to kind of have a different perspective and maybe have an impact. I think that's why Code City is here. That's why we're able to enjoy talks like this. I've been coming to Code City for months and have found it's really cool. So that's why I give my time to it. So kind of bring it back a bit to someone who has a lot more credit than me. There's a quote from Margaret Mead, who's a renowned American cultural anthropologist. She said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." That's profoundly powerful to me because there was a time in my life I was a part of a lot of big groups. And I kind of just felt like, man, it's really hard to make an impact sometimes in big groups. It's like really easy to get lost in the fray. So I left that and kind of partnered my life with a small group of people that really want to make a difference in the entire world, but realize we have to make a difference in ourselves first. So put that on the shelf. History repeats itself when we come to the intersection of the same old, and change. So for me, I was, like I said, in the IT industry doing like server maintenance, troubleshooting, like corporate tech support. And I mean, I was making decent money. I had no reason to change. So my good friend and brother here, Jason Owens, he has an electrical engineering R&D company that is working on some amazing stuff. You should definitely talk to him afterwards if you're interested in technology. He said, "Hey, you should come to this event." And it was a tech meetup type thing. I'm like, he told me this at like 4:30. I was off at 5. I was like, I want to take a nap. I do not want to go to this mixer. I don't want to mix anything. I want to go home and take a nap. So but then I thought, that's pretty lame, Jordan. You want to go home and sleep? That's pretty stupid. Go hang out. So I went there, and it was at UT. It was at the incubator that I had kind of seen when I was an undergrad there. And at the end, they were like, "Hey, we're hiring for this position," and it's the incubation manager. So I saw that, and I was like, wait a minute, this is really cool. This is something I'm interested in. This is the bleeding edge of technology. An incubator is a place where they take startup companies and they bring them through the business phases to make them a profitable company. So I was like, wow, that's amazing. And maybe I'll have an opportunity to work with my brother here. And long story short, was able to get involved with that, was hired, then learned a ton. But it was kind of illogical to a certain point because I was getting paid the same amount, but my responsibilities like quintupled. Like I was just, sitting at my desk, troubleshooting stuff, making spreadsheets. It's fine. Now I'm like running all over town, like doing events, like pulling my hair out, and dealing with all kinds of different types of people that I never have ever met before. And it's great. It's challenging, but there was a lot of times where I sat down and I was like, man, I really miss that IT desk. But then when I really, really thought about it, I was like, you know what? This is what I've been looking for. So too many times we come to these junctions in our lives that says same old and change. And I am a firm believer that there is not only one junction. There's many of these junctions that happen throughout all of your lives. That's happened in my lives too. And we have a choice to make, and it's never easy. So what can make you change. Some like to say people never change, and a lot of people don't, but some people do. I'm a firm believer that the only thing that can make someone change is if they see something that's beyond this earth. They have to see something of heaven. If you're always looking at the earth, you will always be tormented, you will always be uncomfortable, always be, I don't know, dissatisfied. But when you can look up, I mean, how often do you go outside and just look at the beautiful sky that we have, the beautiful clouds? I mean, there's a lot of people looking up today because of the solar eclipse, right? Pretty interesting, pretty cool, but to be honest, I like a normal blue sky better than that. I mean, it's really cool, don't get me wrong. I think it's amazing. I went out there, I bought the glasses, I did the thing, kind of got a headache. It's great. It only happens, you know, every some odd years. But eclipse, I think there's more important things we can see in the sky. I think it's an opportunity to take in something that can change your direction. So vision is the only thing that can change you from your normal, mundane life to something different. And I think there's a lot of people with vision. The next slide is about a bunch of companies that have this vision. But I think I want to recognize a company that is really making a difference here in Toledo, which is ProMedica. I mean, I'm amazed by some of the stuff they're doing, like Promenade Park, all the different buildings they've been putting up. I'm just really impressed with what they're doing, you know. And really, these are people that are taking the city as their own. So we need more people to do that. Nobody paid me to say that, by the way. So Apple, this is one of my favorites, right? So Steve Jobs, visionary, changed the way we interface with computers. Before Apple was here, computers were just almost untouchable, so expensive, only for number crunching. This put the power of a computer in the common person's hand. Tesla, they are crazy. I mean, the hardest market to penetrate, the auto industry. Elon Musk, visionary. He's like, I don't care that it's impossible. This needs to happen. So he did it. I mean, he started with the financial industry. He changed the way we pay for things online. He's a very visionary person. So went the hard road. He sacrificed a lot. He sacrificed things I definitely wouldn't sacrifice. United States, our country, started out as a bunch of rebels, rebelling against one of the most powerful entities on earth at the time. This is the foundation of our country, the history of our country, something we should remember. Alibaba, who knows what Alibaba is? Okay, the founder of Alibaba's name is Jack Ma. He was like a high school teacher, English teacher. He had this idea, he heard about the internet. He visited his friends in Seattle one time, and he heard about the internet. He was like, what? This isn't in China yet. So he tried to develop this thing. He got all his 20 friends in a room, and he was like, we got to do this thing. We got to do this internet. And half of them were like, you're crazy. Nobody's ever heard of the internet. Who knows if that's going to go anywhere? Today, they're one of the largest companies in the world, and they've impacted the culture in China to a degree that nothing ever has. They're changing the way people interact with one another. Commerce is free and open. And obviously in a communist country, that's tough to do. So they're kind of like this pseudo entity that's, the government's like, oh yeah, they're making money, it's cool. So, and even in his early days, he wasn't making any money at all, but people were becoming millionaires off of him. And definitely check out his story, Jack Ma. But one guy that you might not know of, who knows who this guy is? I know you know. All right, so this is Tim Berners-Lee. He is credited with the invention of the internet. Okay, so this is a guy that, well, okay. World Wide Web. Okay. Keith knows him, by the way, kind of knows him. So please talk to him later. I'm probably going to tell you a lot of misinformation, but but he is very influential in the formation of the World Wide Web. And that's something that has changed everything, everything. So these crazy people, they think they can do things, and then they do. And most of the time, we're just kind of stuck in our own, like, oh man, I don't know what I'm going to do. You know, like taking chances like this is what changed the course of history. So why does history repeat itself? It's because we take naps. not against naps, but it's, you see what I'm saying? Anyways. All right, so there's a catch. And a guy named H.L. Mencken says it, I love it. It says, for every complex problem, there is an answer that is clear, simple, and wrong. Yeah, basically he's saying that for every problem, any complex problem, there's a complex answer, and it's not as simple as you think it is. Here's an illustration. So your plan, it's so simple. It's just so simple. But then, oh, dang, it's not that simple. There's checkpoints, there's traps, there's failures, there's persecution, you know? And you can see this is applied to all these companies back here. All these guys faced roads like that. It was not smooth for any of them. A lot of failure, a lot of doubt sometimes. All right, so going back on track here. How can we change? I think it's if we see something different, and I like this quote. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs and the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules. You can quote them, you can disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as crazy ones, we see genius. Because the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. So that's my word to you today, is think a little bit crazier. Ask more questions. And see if you can't make an impact. So thanks, guys.